Welcome back to JBC English Learning Academy. I am so glad you are here with me today. I am Alex, and I want you to take a deep breath and just pause for a second. Wherever you are right now, whether you are walking down a busy street, sitting on a bus, or maybe you're just lying on your sofa at home trying to relax after a long day, I want you to give yourself this moment. Just listen to my voice and let everything else fade into the background for a little while. Today, we are going to talk about something very deep, something very personal, and something that affects every single one of us, no matter where we come from or what language we speak. We're going to talk about the idea of old identities, those heavy, invisible backpacks we carry around with us without even realizing it. When I talk about old identities, I'm not talking about your name or your passport. I'm talking about the stories you tell yourself about who you are. Maybe you tell yourself, I'm just a shy person, or I'm not talented enough to learn languages, or I'm the kind of person who always fails. These ideas start like small seeds, but over time they grow into big walls that keep us stuck. Think about clothes. You know how you have a favorite old sweater that you've worn for years? It's comfortable, it's familiar, and you know exactly how it feels against your skin. But what if you grew out of it? What if it became too tight and started to hurt your shoulders, but you kept wearing it anyway because you forgot that you could take it off? That's exactly what an old identity is like. It's a version of yourself that used to fit, maybe when you were a child or a student, but now you've grown, and the identity is too small, yet you're still wearing it. In this journey we're taking together today, we're going to explore what happens when you decide to take that old sweater off. We're going to look at where these identities come from, because surprisingly, most of them didn't even start with you. They were given to you by other people, by your family, by your teachers, or by the culture around you. We'll talk about the heavy price we pay for holding on to these old stories, a price that we pay with our happiness, our confidence, and even our progress in English. And most importantly, we'll talk about how to let them go, not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a gentle, step-by-step way that feels natural and safe. So before we go any further, I want you to ask yourself a simple question. When was the last time you surprised yourself? Think about it for a moment. Maybe it was a time when you spoke English to a stranger and you didn't feel nervous. Maybe it was a time when you tried a new hobby and realized you were actually quite good at it. Those little moments of surprise are clues. They're hints that the old identity you've been carrying is not the whole truth. You are bigger than your labels. You are more flexible than your old stories. And today, you are going to learn how to access that freer, more confident version of yourself. So get comfortable, take another deep breath, and let us begin this exploration of who you really are and who you could become if you just let go of the past. To really understand how to release an old identity, we first have to understand how it got there in the first place. It's like gardening. If you have a weed in your garden, you can't just cut the leaves. You have to pull up the roots. Otherwise, it just grows back. Our identities are the same way. They have roots, and most of those roots go deep into our childhood. Let's think back to when you were a little child. When we are young, we're like sponges. We absorb everything. We believe everything adults tell us because we think they know everything. If a parent looks at you and says, "You are so quiet," you don't question it. You just think, "Oh, okay, I'm the quiet one." If a teacher says, "You're not very good at math," or "You're not a creative person," you accept it as a fact. Let me tell you a story about a friend of mine. Let's call him Mark. When Mark was 7 years old, he was in an art class at school. He was drawing a picture of his house, and he was using a lot of bright colors. He was having fun. His teacher walked by, looked at his paper, and frowned. She said, "Mark, The sky is not green, and houses are not purple. You are not drawing this correctly. That was just one small moment. It took maybe 30 seconds, but Mark, being a sensitive child, felt embarrassed. He put his crayons down and thought, I'm not an artist. I'm not creative. That identity stuck. He carried that label, I'm not creative, for 30 years. He avoided drawing, he avoided painting, and he even avoided decorating his own apartment because he believed that story. But was it true? Was Mark actually not creative? Of course not. He was just a 7-year-old boy experimenting with colors. The identity was a lie, but because it was planted when he was young, it grew into a giant tree that blocked his creativity. This happens to all of us in different ways. Maybe you were the energetic one who ran around a lot, and your parents kept saying, why can't you just sit still and be good like your sister? So you started to believe, I'm the naughty one, or I'm the difficult one. Or maybe you were the child who always asked questions. Why is the sky blue? Why do dogs bark? And maybe the adults were busy and tired, so they said, you ask too many questions. Stop bothering me. So you learned, my voice is annoying. I shouldn't speak up. See how this happens? These identities are not the truth about you. They're just echoes of what other people said when you were small and vulnerable. Family plays a huge role in this. In many families, there's an unconscious system of roles. It's like a play where everyone has a character. There's the smart one, the responsible one, the funny one, the pretty one, and the quiet one. Let's take a girl named Sarah. In Sarah's family, she was labeled the responsible one. Her parents were busy, so they relied on her to watch her younger brothers, to clean up, and to solve problems. Everyone praised her for being so mature. You're so reliable, Sarah, they would say. This sounds like a compliment, right? And it was, but it also became a cage. As Sarah grew up, she felt she could never make a mistake. She felt she could never be spontaneous or fun because she had to be the responsible one. When she started learning English, she was terrified to speak in class because she was afraid of making a grammar mistake and looking irresponsible. The pressure of that old identity made her learning process full of anxiety. Culture plays a part too. Where you grew up adds another layer to your identity. In some cultures, children are expected to be seen and not heard. If you grow up in that environment, you might develop an identity that says, my opinion doesn't matter, or it's rude to express myself. Then, as an adult trying to learn a language which requires speaking and expression, you're fighting against years of cultural training that tells you to be small and quiet. You might think you are naturally shy, but maybe you are just naturally respectful, and you have mixed up respect with fear of speaking. It is fascinating how these identities form from moments of pain or embarrassment, too. Think about a time you tried to do something and it went wrong. Maybe you were reading a book out loud in class and you stumbled on a word and everyone laughed. In that second, your brain made a decision. It said, never do that again. Public speaking is dangerous. I am the kind of person who gets laughed at. That moment creates a scar. The problem is that we treat the scar like it is still a fresh wound, even when it happened 20 years ago. You are not that helpless child anymore. You are an adult with resources, with intelligence, and with the ability to laugh at yourself. But the identity of the person who gets laughed at is still hiding in the back of your mind, whispering, do not take risks. So we have these stories. We have the shy story, the not smart enough story, the irresponsible story, the not creative story. We collected them like shells on a beach, and we put them in our pocket. But now our pockets are full and they're heavy. And the strange thing is that we defend these identities even if they hurt us. We hold on to them because they're familiar. We think, this is just who I am. I have always been this way. But that is the biggest lie of all. You have not always been this way. You are constantly changing. Your cells are changing, your mind is changing, your experiences are changing you. The only thing keeping you stuck is the story you keep telling yourself. So, if we know these stories are old and often untrue, why do we hold on to them? We hold on to them because they feel safe. The devil you know is better than the devil you do not know, right? If I stay the quiet person, I don't have to risk being rejected. If I stay the person who is bad at English, I don't have to try hard and fail. Old identities protect us from the fear of the unknown, but they also protect us from growth. They protect us from joy. They protect us from becoming who we are actually meant to be. Now, let's talk about the hidden cost of holding on to these old identities. It's not just a feeling of being stuck. There is a real price we pay every single day. Imagine you're driving a car, but there's a heavy box in the back seat. You can still drive, but the car is slower. It uses more gas. It's harder to turn corners. That's what an old identity does to your life. It drains your energy. It makes simple things feel difficult. For example, let's look at how this affects English learning, since that's why you are here. So many learners struggle not because they're not smart, but because of their identity. If your identity is, I am shy, then every time you want to practice speaking, you have a battle inside your head. Your brain says, speak up, practice, but your identity says, no, hide, be quiet. This internal conflict is exhausting. It uses up all your mental energy. So you might sit in a classroom or an online meeting and you understand everything, you know the answer, but you don't say it. You stay silent. Later, you go home and you feel tired. You feel frustrated. You think, why did I not speak? You blame your shyness, but it's not shyness. It's the story you're telling yourself about being shy. There's also the cost of missed opportunities. Life is full of doors, but old identities act like security guards that block the door. They say, you can't go in there. That's for confident people. That's for smart people. You are not one of them. Imagine a man named James. James was offered a promotion at his job. It was a great opportunity. More money, more interesting work, but it involved giving presentations every week. James had an old identity from school that said, you are not good at speaking in front of people. So what did he do? He said no to the promotion. He stayed in his old job, a job he was bored with because he was loyal to an old story about himself. That's a huge cost. He lost a chance to grow his career because of a belief that wasn't even true anymore. Another major cost is perfectionism, which is a very common identity. Many of us were told we were the smart one or the talented one, so we grew up thinking that if we make a mistake, we're no longer smart. We have to be perfect. When it comes to English, this is a disaster. Learning a language requires making mistakes. It requires saying things wrong, laughing about it, and trying again. But if your identity is the perfectionist, you're terrified of making a mistake. You wait until your sentence is perfect in your head before you speak. And by the time it's perfect, the conversation has moved on. So you say nothing. You think, I need to study more grammar. I need more vocabulary. But the problem is not your English level. The problem is your need to be perfect. This identity keeps you stuck at an intermediate level because you're too afraid to speak like a beginner. Old identities also hurt our relationships. If you identify as the helper, the person who always takes care of everyone else, you might find yourself in friendships where you give and give, but you never receive. You attract people who need help because that's your role. But deep down, you might feel lonely. You might feel like no one sees you because they only see the helper. They don't see the real person underneath. Or if you identify as the strong one, the one who never cries, you might feel isolated. You can't share your sadness or your fears with anyone because that would break your character. So you suffer alone. These identities build walls between us and other people. We think we're connecting, but really we're just performing a role. There is also the cost of authenticity. When you're living by an old identity, you are not being the real you. You are being a version of you that was created in the past. It's like wearing a mask all day. It's uncomfortable, and it prevents people from seeing your true face. The world misses out on your unique personality, your jokes, your ideas, and your perspective. And you miss out on the feeling of being truly accepted for who you are, not just for the role you play. Let's think about another identity, the victim identity. This is a tough one, but it's very common. This identity says, bad things always happen to me. Nothing ever works out for me. If you hold this identity, you might unconsciously sabotage your own success. For example, you might sign up for an English course, but then you miss the classes or you forget to do the homework. Deep down, you're proving to yourself that you're right. See, I failed again. It's just my luck. This identity protects you from the responsibility of trying and failing, because if you're the victim, it's not your fault. But it also robs you of the power to change. As long as you believe you're the victim, you can't be the hero of your own life. So, we have these stories. We have the shy story, the not smart enough story, the irresponsible story, the not creative story. We collected them like shells on a beach, and we put them in our pocket. But now our pockets are full, and they're heavy. And the strange thing is that we defend these identities, even if they hurt us. We hold on to them because they're familiar. We think, this is just who I am. I have always been this way. But that is the biggest lie of all. You have not always been this way. You are constantly changing. Your selves are changing. Your mind is changing. Your experiences are changing you. The only thing keeping you stuck is the story you keep telling yourself. So, if we know these stories are old and often untrue, why do we hold on to them? We hold on to them because they feel safe. The devil you know is better than the devil you do not know, right? If I stay the quiet person, I don't have to risk being rejected. If I stay the person who is bad at English, I don't have to try hard and fail. Old identities protect us from the fear of the unknown, but they also protect us from growth. They protect us from joy. They protect us from becoming who we are actually meant to be. Now, let's talk about the hidden cost of holding on to these old identities. It's not just a feeling of being stuck. There is a real price we pay every single day. Imagine you're driving a car, but there's a heavy box in the back seat. You can still drive, but the car is slower. It uses more gas. It's harder to turn corners. That's what an old identity does to your life. It drains your energy. It makes simple things feel difficult. For example, let's look at how this affects English learning, since that's why you are here. So many learners struggle not because they're not smart, but because of their identity. If your identity is, I am shy, then every time you want to practice speaking, you have a battle inside your head. Your brain says, speak up, practice, but your identity says, no, hide, be quiet. This internal conflict is exhausting. It uses up all your mental energy. So you might sit in a classroom or an online meeting and you understand everything, you know the answer, but you don't say it. You stay silent. Later, you go home and you feel tired. You feel frustrated. You think, why did I not speak? You blame your shyness, but it's not shyness. It's the story you're telling yourself about being shy. There's also the cost of missed opportunities.
This brings us to the end of the first part of our journey. We have explored where these identities come from our childhood, our families, and our culture. We have looked at the high cost of keeping them, the missed opportunities, the exhaustion, and the loneliness. And we have started to see that we do not have to keep them. Awareness is the key that unlocks the door. But knowing is not enough. We have to take action. We have to practice new ways of being. So in the next part, we are going to dive deep into the practical steps. We are going to look at specific techniques you can use to rewrite your story. We will talk about how to handle the fear that comes up when you try to change, and how to build a new identity that supports your dreams and your English learning. It is going to be exciting, it is going to be practical, and it is going to empower you to make real changes. So, take a breath, stay with me, and let us continue this transformation together. Welcome back to the second part of our deep dive into releasing old identities. I am so glad you're still here with me. In the first part, we talked about the heavy backpacks we carry from the past and how they limit us today. Now we are going to roll up our sleeves and get to work. We are going to talk about the practical side of change. How do you actually stop being the shy person? How do you stop being the perfectionist? It does not happen by magic. It happens through small, consistent actions. Think of it like learning an instrument. You do not become a piano master in one day. You practice scales, you make mistakes, and slowly your fingers learn what to do. Changing your identity is exactly the same. It is a practice. The first powerful tool we have is the power of questioning. When that old voice speaks up, you need to talk back to it, but not in an angry way, in a curious way. Let's say your old identity whispers, "You cannot speak English. You sound stupid." Instead of believing it, ask yourself, is that 100% true? Can I find any evidence that the opposite is true? Maybe you remember a time last week when you ordered a coffee in English and it went fine. Maybe you remember a time when you understood a movie. When you look for evidence, you break the illusion of the old identity. You realize it's not a universal truth. It's just a bad habit of thinking. Another question to ask is, who would I be without this thought? This is a beautiful question. If you didn't believe you were shy, who would you be? You might be the person who joins the conversation. You might be the person who makes jokes. You might be the person who leads the team. Visualizing yourself without the label is the first step to becoming that person. Your brain does not know the difference between a vivid imagination and reality. When you visualize yourself as confident, your brain starts to build new pathways. It starts to prepare you for that new reality. Now, let's talk about action, because without action, nothing changes. The best way to kill an old identity is to act against it. This is what I call a baby experiment. You don't have to climb Mount Everest today. You just have to take one tiny step that contradicts your old story. Let's go back to Mark, the guy who thought he wasn't creative. For 30 years, he didn't draw anything. One day, he decided to do a baby experiment. He bought a coloring book and some crayons. He sat down for 10 minutes and colored a picture. His hand was shaking at first. He felt silly. The voice in his head said, "This is a waste of time. You are not an artist." But he kept going. When he finished, he looked at the picture. It was not a masterpiece. It was just a colored page, but he felt something shift. He proved to his brain that he could pick up a crayon and not die. He broke the rule. You can do the same thing with English. If your identity is the quiet one, your baby experiment could be to ask one question today, just one. It could be in a store or to a colleague or even in an online comment. It doesn't have to be profound. Just, "How are you?" or "What time is it?" When you do this, you are not changing your entire personality in 1 second. You are just planting a seed. You are showing your brain that the rule, "I do not speak," is not true anymore. Every time you speak, you are watering that seed. Eventually, the new plant, the confident speaker, grows stronger than the old weed. This process requires something very important, and that is self-compassion. We are often so mean to ourselves. We make a mistake and we say, "You are so stupid. I knew you couldn't do it." Imagine if a teacher spoke to a child that way. The child would be terrified to learn, but we do it to ourselves all the time. To change your identity, you must become your own best friend. When you try to speak English and you stumble, you should say, "Good job. You tried. That was brave. You are learning." This kindness creates a safe environment inside you. When you feel safe, you take more risks. When you take risks, you grow faster. So watch your self-talk. If you catch yourself being mean, stop and change the tone. Be gentle. You are doing the best you can. There's a concept called acting as if. This is a favorite technique of many successful people. Basically, you act as if you already have the identity you want. If you want to be a confident English speaker, ask yourself, how would a confident person walk? How would they sit? How would they breathe? Try adopting that posture. Stand up straight, lift your chin, smile. This sounds simple, but it is scientifically proven to change your brain chemistry. When you change your body, you change your mind. If you are feeling nervous before a presentation, do not shrink, expand, take up space. Your brain receives the signal, "Oh, we are safe, we are powerful," and your nervousness decreases. Let's look at another example. Meet Sophia. Sophia always identified as the boring one. She thought she had nothing interesting to say.
She wanted to make friends at her new job, but she stayed silent during lunch because she thought, no one wants to hear from me. Then she learned the acting as if technique. She decided to act as if she were an interesting person. She started asking people questions about themselves. She asked, "What did you do this weekend?" Or, "Do you have any pets?" She didn't talk about herself much, she just listened. People loved talking to her. They started telling her, "You are such a good conversationalist, Sophia." She was surprised. She wasn't saying clever things, she was just present. By acting as if she were interesting, she became interesting. Her old identity dissolved because she stopped feeding it. Another powerful step is to surround yourself with people who see the new you. Old identities are often reinforced by the people around us. If you are the quiet one in your group of friends and you suddenly start talking more, they might look at you strangely. They might even say, "Why are you being so loud? That's not like you." This can be scary. It can pull you back into your old shell. So it helps to find new environments. Join an English club where nobody knows your past. In that room, you are not the shy one from school. You are just a learner like everyone else. You can reinvent yourself. You can be the outgoing one if you want. A fresh start is a magical thing. It gives you the space to practice your new identity without the weight of history. I also want you to think about the stories you tell yourself about failure. For many people, an old identity is built on the fear of failure. They think if I try and fail, it means I am a failure. This is wrong. Failure is an event, not a person. Successful people do not have a different brain, they just have a different relationship with failure. When they make a mistake, they don't say, "I am stupid." They say, "That method did not work. Let me try another way." You can adopt this mindset, which is called the growth mindset. Instead of saying, "I cannot do this," say, "I cannot do this, yet." That little word "yet" changes everything. It opens a door. It suggests that in the future, things can be different. Let's talk about perfectionism again, because it is such a big enemy for English learners. The perfectionist identity says, "If I cannot speak perfectly, I will not speak at all." This is a trap. Language is not about perfection. It is about connection. Think about a baby learning to walk. The baby falls down hundreds of times.
Maybe there is a backpack labeled "Not Smart Enough." Look at these objects. Notice how heavy they look. Notice the dust on them. They have been with you for a long time. Walk over to the table. Pick up one of these objects. Feel its weight. It is heavy, isn't it? Imagine carrying this with you everywhere you go. To work, to bed, to dinner. No wonder you are tired. Now ask this object, "Have you helped me? Has the label shy helped me connect with people? Has the label perfectionist helped me learn English?" Listen to the answer. You might hear a whisper saying, "I was trying to protect you. I kept you safe from judgment." Thank this identity. Say, "Thank you for trying to protect me, but I do not need you anymore. I am strong enough now to handle judgment myself." Now gently place the object back on the table. Turn around and look at a door on the other side of the room. Open that door. Outside there is a beautiful open sky. It represents your future. It represents the unknown, but it also represents freedom. Take the heavy object from the table, walk to the door, and with all your strength, throw it into the sky. Watch it disappear into the clouds. As it leaves your hands, feel the weight lift off your shoulders. Feel your body becoming lighter. Go back to the table, pick up another object. Maybe it is the "not creative" label. Feel its weight. Thank it for protecting you from criticism. Tell it, "I am ready to create. I am ready to be messy. I am ready to learn." Walk to the door and throw it into the sky. Watch it vanish. Do this with every object on the table. One by one, release them. With each throw, feel yourself getting lighter, freer, and more expansive. Notice how the room feels brighter now. The table is empty. You are empty of the heavy past, but full of space for the future. Stand in the middle of your empty room. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, "Who am I now?" Without the labels, what remains? You might feel a sense of peace. You might feel a spark of excitement. You are just you, a human being capable of learning, capable of change, capable of joy. You are not a fixed statue. You are a river, always moving, always fresh. Stay in this feeling for a moment. Feel the gratitude for yourself, for the courage to let go. Now slowly bring your attention back to your physical body. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Roll your shoulders. Take another deep, refreshing breath. Open your eyes and look around you. The world might look a little different, a little brighter. That's because you are looking at it with new eyes, eyes that are not clouded by old stories. This visualization is not just a fantasy, it is a rehearsal for real life. Every time you throw that heavy coat away in your mind, it makes it easier to take it off in reality. It weakens the neural pathway of the old identity and strengthens the pathway of the new free you. I encourage you to do this short visualization often, maybe once a week, to keep reminding yourself that you have the power to let go. As we finish this episode, I want to leave you with a final thought and a challenge. We have talked a lot about identities, but the most important identity you can ever have is the identity of a learner. Not a person who is shy, not a person who is perfect, but a person who learns, a person who is curious, a person who is growing. When you identify as a learner, mistakes are not failures, they are just data. They are just information that helps you learn better. When you identify as a learner, you are never finished. You are always on an exciting journey. So here's my challenge for you. I want you to pick one identity that has been holding you back. Just one. Maybe it is, I am not good at speaking, or I'm too old, or I'm not talented. Write it down on a piece of paper. Look at it. And then I want you to create a counter statement. If you wrote, I am not good at speaking, write, I am a learner who improves every day. Put this new statement somewhere you will see it every day, on your mirror, on your phone, on your desk, and then take one action, just one. If you wrote, I am not good at speaking, go record yourself speaking for 1 minute on your phone. You don't have to show it to anyone, just record it and listen to it. You will hear that you are better than you think. If you wrote, I'm too old, learn one new slang word today and use it. Break the rule. Prove the old identity wrong. This is your life. It's the only one you get. Don't waste it living inside a story that someone else wrote for you when you were a child. You are the author now. You hold the pen. You can write a new chapter right now. You can write a chapter where you are confident, where you speak English with joy, where you take risks, and where you are kind to yourself. Thank you so much for listening to this long episode on JBC English Learning Academy. I know it was deep, and I know it takes time to process these things. Be patient with yourself. Change is a process, not a destination. If you found value in this, please subscribe to the channel and share this episode with a friend who might be carrying a heavy backpack too. Let's help each other walk lighter. Remember, you are not your past. You are what you choose to become today. Keep practicing, keep smiling, and keep releasing those old identities. I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.